He called me boring in front of 8 people. 8 people who I had cooked for, laughed with, welcomed into my home every single summer for 5 years. He said it like it was nothing, like I was nothing. And I smiled, picked up the empty chip bowl, walked back into the kitchen, and stood at the sink for a long moment staring out at the backyard while everyone laughed at whatever he said next. That was the night everything changed. Not because of what he said, because of what I found 2 hours later. My name is Melissa. I am 34 years old. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. And until 8 months ago, I was married to a man named Ryan, who I loved more completely and more foolishly than I have ever loved anything in my life. We met in the fall of 2017 at a mutual friend's birthday party in Uptown Charlotte. Ryan was funny and confident, and he had this way of making you feel like you were the most interesting person in the room. He remembered details. He asked follow-up questions. He texted first. For the first 2 years of our relationship, I genuinely believed I had found the one person on this earth who saw me exactly as I was and chose me anyway. We got married in October of 2019. Small wedding, 63 people. My mother cried. Ryan's best man gave a toast about how Ryan had told him the week he met me that he was going to marry me someday. I cried too. I am not someone who cries easily. The shift was gradual. It always is, isn't it? By the end of 2020, Ryan had stopped asking how my day was. Not dramatically, just quietly. The way a light flickers before it goes out. You almost don't notice until the room is dark. He stopped reaching for my hand in the car. He started spending more time on his phone. He answered my questions with one word. He stopped laughing at my jokes. He stopped making jokes with me. We became 2 people sharing a mortgage and a Netflix password and very little else. I tried to talk to him about it in March of 2021. I sat him down at the kitchen table on a Sunday morning, the good coffee, the kind he liked, and I told him I felt like we were drifting. I told him I missed him. I told him I was scared of what we were becoming. He told me I was being dramatic. He said every marriage goes through dry spells and that I needed to stop making everything into a crisis. He said it with the particular exhaustion of someone who has heard a complaint too many times, except I had never said it before. Not once. That was the first time. I let it go. By the fall of 2021, the dismissiveness had started happening in public. Small things at first, talking over me at dinner parties, finishing my sentences wrong and not noticing, making a joke at my expense, and then looking around the table for the laugh before looking at me. I told myself it was stress. He had been passed over for a promotion at work. I told myself he was taking it out on the nearest target, and that I should be patient. I was patient for a long time. The word boring first appeared in January of 2022. We were at his coworker Derek's house for a New Year's party, and someone asked me what I like to do on weekends. I said I had been getting into hiking, that I had done the Crowder's Mountain Trail twice, and was planning to try Hanging Rock State Park in the spring. Ryan laughed, not with me, at me. He said, and I remember this exactly, "That's Melissa for you. Most exciting thing she's done all year is walk up a hill." Nobody laughed, but nobody said anything either. And Ryan moved on to another conversation, like he had said nothing at all. I did not cry in Derek's bathroom that night. I want to be clear about that. I went to the bathroom, stood at the sink, looked at my reflection for about 45 seconds, and then went back out to the party. But something calcified in me that night. Something small and hard and very quiet. It kept happening. At Derek and Sarah's 4th of July cookout, he told a story about a road trip we had taken to Asheville and turned me into the punchline. At his college friend Marcus's birthday dinner in September, he interrupted me 3 times while I was telling a story and then finished it wrong. Each time I smiled. Each time I went somewhere private and stood still for a moment. Each time the small, hard, quiet thing inside me grew a little larger. By the summer of 2023, I had stopped telling him things, not as a decision, just as a natural consequence of never being heard. I stopped telling him about the project at work I was proud of. I stopped telling him about the book I was reading. I stopped reaching for him in the dark. I moved through our marriage like a ghost, moving through a house that no longer recognized her. And then came the night of Derek's backyard BBQ, August 12th, 2023. There were 8 of us. Ryan had been in a good mood all day, which should have been a sign. He was charming and loud and telling stories and refilling everyone's drinks. And I remember thinking, is this what it's like to be someone else? Is this the version of him that exists when I'm not the problem? Somewhere around 9 o'clock, Marcus's girlfriend Kate asked me about a photography class I had mentioned taking. I had just started it. I was excited about it. I talked about it for maybe 90 seconds. The instructor, the film cameras, the way light works differently than I expected. Ryan put his hand on my knee, not affectionately, the way you put your hand on someone's knee to stop them talking. He looked around the table and said, "Sorry, she gets like this. I keep telling her she's the most boring person I've ever dated, but she doesn't believe me." He laughed. Marcus laughed. One other person laughed. Everyone else went quiet. I picked up the empty chip bowl. I said I would grab more from inside. I walked into the kitchen. I stood at the sink. I did not cry. I looked out at the backyard through the window above the faucet, at the string lights and the paper plates, and my husband performing for his friends. And I felt the last of something leave me, quietly, like air going out of a room when a door closes. I refilled the chip bowl. I went back outside. I smiled for another 2 hours. That night, when we got home, Ryan fell asleep almost immediately. He always did after he'd been drinking. I lay in the dark for a long time. At around 2 in the morning, I got up to get water. His phone was on the kitchen counter charging. I do not know what made me pick it up. I had never gone through his phone in 6 years of being together, not once. I am not that person. I picked it up. He had not locked it. He almost never did at home. The first thing I saw was a text notification from a contact saved as Work Ashley, with a string of heart emojis after the name. The preview read, "Miss you already. Tonight was perfect. Tonight." Tonight was the night he had spent 4 hours calling me the most boring person he'd ever dated in front of our friends. I opened the thread. I stood in my kitchen at 2 in the morning in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I read 14 months of messages between my husband and a woman named Ashley, who worked in his office. 14 months. That meant it had started in June of 2022, 3 months after I had sat him down at the kitchen table with the good coffee and told him I was scared of what we were becoming. He had responded to that conversation by starting an affair. I read everything. I did not rush. I sat down on the kitchen floor with his phone, and I read every message, every photo, every plan they had made together. She knew he was married. There were messages where she asked about me. There were messages where he described me. Not cruelly, which would have almost been easier, but dismissively. Tired. Like describing an old piece of furniture you've kept too long. I put the phone back on the counter exactly where I found it. I went back to bed. I lay in the dark next to my sleeping husband, and I breathed slowly and steadily until morning. I did not say a word. Here's what I did instead. The next morning, I called my friend Jennifer. Jennifer is a family law attorney in Charlotte, who I have known since college. I met her for coffee at 7:45 that Monday morning, and I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she put down her cup and said, "North Carolina is an at-fault divorce state. Marital misconduct matters here. Do you have screenshots?" I did not yet, but I would. Over the next 3 weeks, I documented everything. I am a project manager by profession. Documentation is what I do. I photographed the text thread in full over 3 separate nights when Ryan was asleep. I pulled our joint bank statements going back 18 months and found charges I had not noticed or had not questioned. Hotel stays in South Charlotte. Restaurant charges for 2 on nights he said he was working late. A piece of jewelry purchased in February that I never received. I found a second credit card in his name I had not known existed, with a $4,200 balance. I gave everything to Jennifer. She told me my case was strong. North Carolina's alienation of affection laws are among the most plaintiff-friendly in the country. We could pursue Ashley directly if we chose to. More importantly, the financial misconduct, the hidden credit card, the marital funds spent on the affair, significantly strengthened my position in the divorce settlement. I filed on a Tuesday morning in September. Ryan was served at his office. I know he was served at his office because Jennifer timed it deliberately. His entire team was in an open-plan floor. The process server walked in at 10:15 in the morning and asked for Ryan by his full name. Ashley was standing 12 feet away when it happened. I was not there to see it. I have a friend who works in the same building who called me afterward and described it in some detail. I will leave it at that. Ryan called me 47 times between 10:15 and noon that day. I answered on the 48th call at 12:30 from a table at a restaurant in Dilworth, where I was having lunch with Jennifer. He said, "Melissa, I can explain. It wasn't what it looks like. It was nothing." I said, "Jennifer says hi." He went completely silent. I said, "You have until end of business Friday to have your attorney contact hers. After that, we stop being cooperative." I hung up. The divorce took 7 months, Ryan contested initially, as people do when they have not yet fully understood their position. His attorney's first offer was insultingly low. Jennifer's response included a complete file, the hotel receipts, the hidden credit card statements, the text thread screenshots, and a legal brief citing North Carolina's criminal conversation statute in relation to Ashley. Ashley, upon learning that she was potentially named in a civil action, retained her own attorney and stopped returning Ryan's calls. The final settlement gave me the house, my full share of our joint retirement accounts, and a cash settlement calculated against the documented marital funds spent on the affair. Ryan's attorney fees alone exceeded $38,000. He had to liquidate part of his 401k to cover the settlement. There is a 10% early withdrawal penalty on that, plus taxes. Jennifer made sure I understood exactly what that cost him. He sold the car he loved, a 2021 Mustang he had bought the year before we got married, to cover the remainder. I found that out from Derek, who texted me 3 months after the divorce was finalized to say he was sorry. He said he had not known. He said he felt terrible about that night at the BBQ. He said Ryan had not been the same since everything came out and that their friend group had pulled back from him significantly. I thanked Derek for reaching out. I wished him and Sarah well. And then I blocked Ryan's number for the last time and set my phone face down on the counter of the kitchen of the house that was now entirely and legally mine. Update. Several people have asked about Ashley. She and Ryan did not stay together after the divorce proceedings began. From what I understand through mutual connections, she ended things when she found out about the civil action, and that he had apparently told her the marriage was essentially over, and that I was the one who had checked out. I don't carry anger toward her specifically, but I don't carry much of anything toward either of them anymore. That's the part nobody tells you about revenge. The real thing isn't the settlement, or the car, or watching him lose the people who thought he was so charming. The real thing is the Tuesday morning 6 months after the divorce, when you wake up in your own house, in your own bedroom, with your own coffee, and realize you haven't thought about him once since you went to sleep. That morning felt like winning something that had nothing to do with a courtroom. I signed up for the full photography course last spring. I drove up to Hanging Rock State Park in April and hiked it by myself. It took me 4 hours. At the top, I sat on a rock and looked out at the Blue Ridge, and I thought, I am the least boring person I have ever known. It just took someone treating me like I was nothing to finally make me see it. He called me boring in front of 8 people. I made sure all 8 of them found out exactly who he was.